Tonya J. Powers. Tonya, good morning.
Good morning.
Got an interesting story I wanted to talk to you about if you're into it. Are you into it? I think you might be.
Oh, sure. Let's go.
Virginia Supreme Court arguments, this issue of whether or not felons should be allowed to vote. And it kind of makes me wonder, can felons vote in New York? I think they can.
You know what? I'm not sure. I know Virginia is one of 4 states that, that apparently has this odd kind of... the Constitution of that state permanently disenfranchises felons, but it allows the governor to restore the voting rights of them.
Got it. And so now this has become a new controversy. Right,
because and here's why. Because you've got, it could have an effect on what's going on in November. The Supreme Court of Virginia heard these arguments yesterday. The fight is between the Republicans who have brought a lawsuit, and they say, that the governor back in April issued an executive order and said, okay, I'm going to blanket en masse restore the voting rights of 206,000 felons. Well, as you can imagine, the state who went with President Obama in 2008 and 2012, you can see how this is shaping up. Because you've got a Democratic governor who has just restored the rights to these 206,000 felons. And now the Republicans have brought a lawsuit that says, no, you can't restore them en masse. You have to do it individually,
one at a time. Right.
It's not that he's doing it; it's how he's doing it.
Yeah.
And
so
that's what the argument's about.
And one would assume that one at a time would take a much longer amount of time.
I would imagine. 12,000 of them, by the way, have already registered to vote since April when this happened. And remember, when the president won this state in 2008 and 2012, 2008 I think it was by 235,000 votes. 2012 was by like 135,000. So you can imagine if you add 200, even if you got only half of them, 100,000 extra votes. And a lot of this is, of course, the Latino and African American population is who the felons, the group of felons. There's a lot of those votes in there.
Not to mention, you have the ability to say, and remember on your way out, who was trying to prevent you guys from being able to vote?
Exactly. So you can see kind of how this is shaping up.
Yeah. What do you think is going to? I mean, how long before we know what is going to come out of this? Is it? Do they have a leg to stand on here? The Republicans?
Well, I mean. They're standing on one way or the other. I don't know if they're going to get to first base with it, because they say, well, this has not been done in the past by this, but they also claim that the Constitution of the state says they can't. There's differing opinions on that, obviously, which is why it went to court. The court says it hasn't made up its mind, has not given a time frame as to when they'll have a decision on it, though. All
right, Tonya Powers, thanks so much. Have a great day. All right. What do you think of that, Joe? Should there be something in New York that prevents felons? If there isn't, is there? Do we know?
There is. Essentially, if my understanding is correct, and I chaired the election committee for a couple of years, if you are a convicted felon or on parole, you're ineligible to vote. But once you come off parole, then you can re-register and vote.
Okay.
But
if you're a convicted felon, you can't.
You cannot. Correct.
So Sheldon Silver
would not be able to vote.
Can't even vote.
Right. Yeah. Correct. Now, in Virginia's case, if they're trying to help the Democratic candidate, McAuliffe could just pardon everybody, and then they could all be able to vote.
Oh, very, very. So there's a way out of that.
I don't think you'd ever see that, because that would be an interesting way. But
that would be. Well, you never know, Joe, what could happen in this day and age. You just don't know. Crazy stuff out there. Let's see. What else do we have this morning? I wanted you to know that Joe did not come alone. You brought a few interviews along with you, some people that we're going to be able to talk to this morning. Included, let's leave the fun one for last.
Sure.
But you have, so tell me about Nik Reisman. He's a reporter with Capital Tonight, right?
Nik covers the Capitol, and he's down in Cleveland. And they've been doing a lot of work there with Capital Tonight, Liz Benjamin and Nik. He sits in for her a lot. And they always do the Reporters Roundtable.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be interesting. We were talking the other day and told him that we were going to be on your show. And he said, yeah, it'd be interesting.
Bring him in.
To give a reporter's perspective of. I always criticize that, though. I always got on their case saying, if you're going to have a roundtable of what's going on, you should include some of the participants. Like, you have all the talking heads, but get somebody from who's in office or who was a delegate to the convention, let them sit around.
Yeah.
But we'll give Nik an opportunity to give their perspective of what they're seeing, and because he's been everywhere in the convention hall as well as in the New York hotel.
And then you have Ed Cox, too. He's the Republican Party chairman.
Yeah,
New York State.
Ed's going to play a prominent role because New York is in play again, particularly now that you have 2 New York candidates. And that's something that people are not talking about a lot, but really it's something unique, even though the Clintons are transplanted. But still, she was the U.S. Senator from New York.
Sure.
So you have 2 New Yorkers vying, and you've not seen that, I think, since Thomas Dewey, where you've had New Yorkers contending for the office of president. And Ed has been chair for a number of years now. He's the son-in-law of former President Richard Nixon. So I think Ed is going to be really good. And he's coming on just before they begin the New York breakfasts every morning around 8 o'clock. New York, every delegation hosts a breakfast, and they always bring in some interesting speakers. Newt Gingrich spoke Monday. The chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee spoke the other day also. I'm sure he's going to have some interesting people today and Thursday coming to speak to the New York delegation. So it'll be interesting to see what's taking place from his perspective.
And then is he from Niagara Falls, Nik Wallenda? Where does he live now?
Florida.
Nik Wallenda, the family that's famous. Where their fame began, though, was up at Enchanted Forest. The Wallenda, weren't they the family that did the circus up there?
I never knew that.
That is true.
The great Wallendas.
His parents, I believe his parents, and maybe even grandparents, performed for years at Enchanted Forest.
And they did the circus at the Odd for a while, if I'm not mistaken.
Could be, I don't know.
He is amazing.
So did the Shriners, I've heard that.
Oh, yeah.
Nick's amazing, and hopefully we're going to be able to make this happen. I know we've talked about him before, but he did the walk over Niagara Falls, which was amazing, and then over the Grand Canyon. And he'd like to do it over Midtown Manhattan, and I really think that would be outstanding. But I know the de Blasio administration has been giving them a lot of grief, not wanting to see something like that, and I don't get it.
I can't believe it. If somebody wants to do something like that, and they want to put he's always got like some sort of a support. They could make him have a wire or something where he's connected. I think one of the last ones he did, he actually had a safety harness.
I think that was a requirement at the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Now over Niagara Falls, he did not.
I know.
That was an impressive.
Well, and with the wind and the water, if you can cross Niagara
that,
Falls, you can cross Midtown Manhattan.
Yeah. The Flying Wallendas at the Enchanted Forest. That was what they were called, and I believe there's still signage up there at Enchanted Forest. So pretty cool. We'll come right back. Hold tight. 6:50. Senator Joe Griffo in as well. Christine Bellino. Jeff Manaske is on vacation. Jim Rondinelli's made his way in as well. It's convention week. Next week, you get right back to it in Philadelphia with the Democrats.